Hey everybody, I'm Rick Beato. Today I've got one of the most exciting young jazz piano players out on the scene, Jahari Stampley. 2 years ago, he won the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz Piano Competition, which is really the biggest competition of its kind. I've known Jahari for a couple of years, and he recently stopped by the studio for a conversation. Before we get started, hit the subscribe button. Here's my interview. Jahari.
Rick.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Such an honor.
So you were in Hong Kong until yesterday, right?
Yesterday morning, yeah.
So Hong Kong to Atlanta is a long way. How you feeling? You doing all right?
I'm doing great. You know, the adrenaline is kicked in. I'm here, and I'm really honored to be a part.
Well, we've been talking for a couple of years, I think, right?
Yeah.
Remember talking to you and your dad the first time and on FaceTime.
Yeah.
It had to be at least 2 years ago, maybe longer. I can't even remember now.
Super long.
You have a new record out?
Yes, my next album that has just been released about a month ago.
Your second album?
Second album titled What a Time.
What a Time.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Features a lot of my favorite artists, Keon Harold, Derek Hodge, and my mother is actually a big part of the album as well.
Who's here?
She's here, yes. She's one of my biggest influences and inspirations, and Grammy nominated. And so, yeah, I'm just really grateful to have so many people I love, different vocalists, and lots of amazing artists part of the project.
I don't usually do this, but why don't we start? Why don't you play something? Why don't you play something off the new record? Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so Jahari, how would you describe your own style?
Wow. Well, I used to, when I was younger, I used
26, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So I used to listen to so much different music growing up. My father, he used to play all kinds of records, and I used to hear all kinds of music. And I remember when I first was exposed to jazz, honestly, at a very early age, I used to hate it. I thought, I thought it was so weird. I was like, man, it sounds like endless melodies. I can't latch on to anything. Like I didn't realize they were soloing over chord changes. I didn't know what chord changes were. All I knew was it was just, it was just endless amount of array of notes. It just like keep going and going and going. I used to think to myself, wow, this sounds.
Does it sound random to you?
It almost sounded like a nightmare hearing Chick Corea's music sometimes, thinking like, wow, this endless piano lines.
Well, when did you realize that it was soloing over chords? Did somebody tell you that or something?
There was a moment where I remember my band director in high school. He noticed that I was inclined to learning the piano because I could kind of mimic based on what I saw.
Yeah.
So I was very like a visual learner. I used to be able to mimic just based on the shapes and his posture. So he would play like a shape, something like just a very all black keys, kind of like something. But I would look at his fingers and I would be able to mimic the shapes and the fingerings. And so I remember he used to give me little snippets of things to take home. And I would go home and learn one little thing at a time. And every day I was practicing in a way. I just really fell in love with figuring out the piano, almost like a puzzle piece. It's so visual and everything is so in front of you. So I used to seriously just sit and observe piano like a puzzle piece. And I remember like one of the first tunes I learned was like a jazz standard. I was learning different things on YouTube, different, random clips, things that I found interesting just from mimicking the shapes and people playing it. I remember kind of the first standard I remember was kind of a solo. I remember. Once I started to recognize different shapes and permutations based on, the chord.
Okay, wait. So let's talk about this. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
solar C minor 7 starts on, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So you got 2 bars, then you have a 2-5-1 in F. So G minor 7, C 7, F major 7, right?
Exactly.
Then you have a 2-5 in E flat. So
Yes.
F minor 7, B flat 7, E flat. Then you have a 2-5 in D flat.
Exactly.
E flat minor 7, A flat 7, D flat, and then it does a turnaround.
Yes.
D minor 7 flat 5, G7 in 1 bar, and turns around back to the top. That's the form of the songs. Those are the chord changes. These are the things that you're improvising over. You're improvising over a chord sequence.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Now, did you realize that did your teacher tell you this, or you just started realizing, oh, people are improvising over these particular chord sequence, and this is what this is?
Yeah, I didn't have a teacher initially, and it was kind of like
Could you hear those chords though going by?
I couldn't hear it. It was more like visual.
Okay.
It was like I could see the shape of the chord. Like if I saw the notes. And I realized that if I moved the notes around, over each chord change, realized I could take notes outside. And I used to just explore. I would just figure out all of these little things. Like visually, it was like I looked at the notes and I would study all the very slowly.
So those shapes within those chord figures, like in those chord
chords.
scales and things like that.
Yeah, and it was like I was exploring all kinds of stuff, and I would hear classical harmony where they would use 2/5 or 5/1 kind of passages. And I would kind of start to discover you could do all kinds of substitutions,
Okay, so
different
where
inversions.
where did you learn these classical chord progressions from? Did you study classical piano?
You know, I studied everything. It was like the thing about YouTube and Instagram, I'm from this era where I was just so curious and I would practice all day. Like, you could talk to my mom about it. Like, I used to literally every day.
Would you just like find piano players and
I would
look
find
at videos,
everything.
anything, right?
Anything. Something would pop up on my feed. I would hear somebody play. And I would look at that. I'd be like, oh, okay, let me learn that in all 12 keys. So I would take both hands.
Play that slowly.
Yeah,
Jahari.
exactly. And then I would take those shapes. Once I had it in all 12
And
keys.
you would, for people that don't know what that even means, would you go through the circle of fifths? Would you go by half steps? What would you do?
You could
Anything,
go
right?
anything, and half steps. So you can go up different keys, and sometimes even in both hands, I would take one shape, and then my other hand, and I would figure
Okay,
out.
so why is that so difficult to do? Explain to people.
Well, the coordination. A lot of people kind of neglect their left hand, and so when I was practicing, I used to do a lot of left hand kind of exercises. just stuff that I would come up with, honestly, just like everything really, like based on any kind of idea that I had. It was like I was sitting with the piano so much that it became a part of me to where I just wanted to explore the instrument all day, you know, and I would literally sit with harmony sometimes and sit with songs, play the songs over and over, like simple songs, and just try to dissect it and try to open it up in different ways. And I loved just sitting with the piano for hours, just trying to unravel, like it's like unraveling all these different areas. And it's so, there's so much history with the piano. There's so many techniques.
It's interesting. You don't play a lot of standard bebop
Right.
lines.
Exactly.
Like you don't use chromaticism like a bebop piano player would do, which to me is really interesting. That's what I love about your playing, that it's not a bunch of bebop licks put together, right? This is like a lot of jazz piano players that used to be the case. I actually don't find it as much anymore that people, you know. Now, when I hear Oscar Peterson play it, the people that kind of invented doing these things, it sounds like...
It sounds authentic.
Yeah, or Art Tatum or whoever it was. You know, yeah. Oscar really played bebop lines, played chromaticism, and the chromaticism of Charlie Parker and of the musicians of his era.
Yeah, you know, when I listened to Oscar Peterson, I used to notice, you know, there was so many. I didn't like to transcribe people directly, but I like to analyze kind of how they use notes to weave in between changes. So I noticed even in classical music, certain changes, like a lot of lines kind of weaving in between different 5-1 progressions.
Explain what you mean by 5-1 progressions. Just pretend that the people watching this have no idea what you're talking about.
So I would notice that in a lot of bebop lines, and what I used to try to do, I used to try to not just copy what somebody played, but I tried to get into the method of how they created that so that I could create my own way of getting around the changes. But a lot of times, for example, let's say I have a C major and I want to get to, it's like you're trying to get to another change. If I'm trying to go from C major to D minor. So there's a lot of different ways you can get there. So I would see them outline. Kind of like things like that, where you're going from different C major and then a 5 to E to A minor
using
to D.
Some circle of fifths.
Circle of fifths.
Yeah.
And then you lead yourself back to D minor. And I used to analyze different ways you could move around with just chords at first. And then I would dissect the chords. So then I'll take the note. I would kind of mix unexpected turns. It's like walking and taking different streets, like unexpectedly. And I would explore all kinds of passageways to harmony. And a lot of it was visual for me because the shapes when you look at the notes, your target notes, there's just so many notes surrounding those notes. There's notes you can get to when you want to. It's like, for example, if I'm looking at a C major triad, I'm looking at D flat
D
major.
flat. Yep.
And so when I look at D flat, I say, okay, well, I can also use a street to get to D flat. I could go, and then I could go to C major. So I could go a 5 to D major, D flat major.
Yeah, A
And then
flat to D flat.
Then I could do that as well. And I can do the same thing for the chord below C major, which is B major. I could take a G flat 7.
F sharp to
F
B.
sharp, yeah, F sharp.
Yeah, like 5-1 to B. Yes.
And so
You're doing a 5-1 on each side of the C major.
each side
you got a
of
half
the C
step up, a
major.
half step below.
And the spectrum can expand. So you can go half steps, but you can also approach different chords leading to C major. You don't even have to think about where you're. I think a lot of times with bebop players, they stick to the same routes, the licks. I think you kind of get.
It's interesting, routes. I like that. I like that term. It's like the same roads.
The same roads.
Yeah.
But when you hear true innovators like Keith Jarrett, like Herbie, even in their harmony, it's expansive. There's a lot more risk involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was something I loved to explore, was not just playing like everybody else, but really trying to explore risks and take risks, not be afraid to, which I think it's scary to be vulnerable like that and to play for people, to show yourself, to expose yourself, to play something you haven't even practiced. Like stuff that I'm playing right now, I didn't prepare, you know what I mean? But it's like I'm prepared for the unknown in a way, and just trying to make my mistakes lead me back to where I want to go. And I think in life, that's how life is, you don't know what's going to happen every day. Right. You have to improvise your way. And so sometimes, even when I'm playing with a band, or if I'm playing in time, chances are we might feel the time differently. And I just have to listen. And I think that was something it took me time to develop. I think really just playing and hearing other people play, it's almost like a conversation. And it's hard to explain exactly how you develop that. I think it's truly a love for the art of music. I think just loving the language and wanting to learn the language more. It's like with anything, you just want to learn. And I think if you keep exploring and you keep trying, you'll find your own path. I think that was what I aspired to do. I wanted to find my own voice.
To me, the thing that when I heard your playing, that spoke to me was that you are improvising, but you're not improvising with the normal licks that people would use. And I hear the classical music influence, I hear the gospel music influence, I hear the chord changes, but you're not getting to them through them using the same roots.
Yeah.
And I don't mean ROOTS. I mean you're using different roads, and it's refreshing to hear that. And to me, it's incredibly melodic. When I'm hearing this, it's like it sounds so melodic because I can hear all these chord changes happening. That are these overall arching things that are going over the actual chord progression that I know. I've played Solar a million times, and when you're making those changes, not only can I hear what the changes are, but I can hear all the different things. It's because you're speaking a language, and it's a language that the more that you understand it, for me, the more it connects with me, what you're doing, because it's so interesting.
Man, I think about people that I admire, so many pianists, and I think in school they try to teach how to be like them, but when you think about them, and we were talking about this with YouTube, where the people who actually play music, it comes from within them. They're not copying someone else. They're really like Oscar Peterson. It was coming from him,
Right.
and so it would be a shame to try to copy him, you know. And of course, he's a master. You want to learn the concept. You want to learn, you know, what he's playing, you know, conceptually. But in a way, you don't want to just. I don't think anybody would agree that you should copy Oscar Peterson, and you know.
Well, maybe that people wouldn't agree with that, but you know, piano players have copied Oscar Peterson. Piano players copy McCoy Tyner, and guitar players copy Alan Holdsworth, and and that's all they do is there's people I know that are great players, but they literally just copy that style. Yeah. And they're not interested in exploring anything else beyond that. And I think it's like having a willingness to take your own path is actually something that very few people do. It's scary.
It's because you don't know if you're going to be liked. Yeah. When you think about Thelonious Monk and certain artists where
perfect example,
polarizing at first. You know? It's scary because you're literally doing something that hasn't necessarily been approved by anyone. It hasn't been loved or it hasn't been appreciated. And no one would know how. I don't know how somebody would react to what I'm playing. I just know that the core of what I wanted to play came from me. Like, and what I'm playing is not really for the sake of trying to be like anything. It's almost like you have to have belief in yourself to trust yourself, to follow your ears towards what you want to play. And it's scary. It's like, what do I even like? Who am I? Like, who even am I? Like, I don't even know who I am. And as a kid, your identity, you're scared to be yourself. You're influenced by culture and people around you to do what they do. You know, if they like Taylor Swift, then maybe I should like it. I'm weird if I don't like Taylor Swift. But the truth is, I don't. Well, I do. Well, I want to.
Sorry, Taylor.
Well, okay. I like some of her songs. I like some of her songs. But I think to be honest with yourself, what do you like and what don't you like? But to also take elements, even from things in history that maybe you don't appreciate, but you take time to listen.
You have had classical piano lessons or not really?
You know, my first lesson actually came from a pianist that toured with Miles Davis. His name was Robert Irving. He was one of my first people that he opened my mind in a way because he recognized that I knew all of these things. Like I could play a 15-second Instagram clip, like, okay, and then I could play this 15-second, and then I could play this, and then I knew these little snippets of things because I was just a kid. Just, oh, this sounds cool. I'm gonna learn this little. But he used to sit me down and say, well, you have this array of things that you know, but now you just know words. You don't know how to put them together and speak. So he taught me how to take this information that I had and apply it to context where I could play with other people, or I could play a song like, you know, I could play. I could take all the shapes that I was learning I knew all of these fragments, and I wanted to put it all together. I would just sit with things.
Thank you. Now, to me, I hear this, that you're figuring out a puzzle.
Puzzle all day.
Right? So you go, okay, where is he going to go now? So I'm following the puzzle as you're putting it together here.
Oh, yeah.
And I know the melody that you're improvising on, but I see you're going somewhere. You're like, oh, what about this? Does this fit here? Ooh, that's not that.
Yeah.
Oh, that fits there, and then this, but sometimes you're changing the shape of the puzzle pieces.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And the process plays out over kind of the directions that you go with places. I think that this is something that people miss about jazz. What you play does not sound like jazz, though, but it's improvised music. But that doesn't sound like jazz. When a lot of people think of jazz, they think of bebop. And they think of the chromaticism, or as people joke about, it's all the wrong notes, right?
Yeah.
But I don't hear that at all. Yours is I hear gospel elements. I hear a lot of classical music elements in there. I hear pop music. I hear hymns, things like that.
Yeah, I love the way you described it. Puzzle is really, that's
right. You're trying to put together a puzzle.
It's really like a puzzle.
Like, where does this go next? Where does this piece go? Where's that thing that I just played go next? Oh, It goes here. Try this out. Ooh, that was kind of interesting. Why don't if I did this, maybe I can get back to C minor, maybe at the E flat major, whatever it is,
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about this Herbie Hancock competition that you won, Jahari. That was, 2 years ago now?
2 years now. That was pretty surreal.
Tell us about it.
Well, a guest that you've had recently, Hiromi actually was a judge, as well as Herbie and Bill Charlap, Orrin Evans, Danilo Perez. So there's I believe every 4 years, there's the biggest jazz competition It's not always for piano. They switch instruments every 4 years. So this last season of the competition just happened to be for piano.
And where was it?
This was in New York.
Okay.
Very incredible lineup of artists from international, all over the world. So it's like similar to that Chopin competition where it's the biggest competition in jazz, and a lot of artists have come through that. The last pianist that won was actually Tigran Hamasyan from Armenia, as well as Joshua Redman have won this competition. I remember being a part of it, and it was pretty surreal because I started music so late, and I think in the moment that I was a part of it, in my mind, I just thought, I have no expectations. Just gonna play, and I think in a way I wasn't so focused on any idea of winning. I think competitions are subjective. Music is subjective.
I was gonna say
everything is subjective. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like everybody has their own voice.
What did you have? What? Tell me what the setup was. They have different rounds.
There's different rounds.
Okay.
The first round is online. You submit recordings. So I submitted. I remember I almost missed the deadline. Don't tell anybody this, but I remember. Well, I guess everybody's gonna hear this. I remember I was actually on a flight, and it was the day of the deadline, and I realized I had about 2 hours to submit, and I just had my phone. So I immediately called my mom, and I said, "Oh my gosh, the deadline is today. Can you extract the music from this video on my hard drive in my room?" And she was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Yeah." I said, I know it sounds weird. It's labeled like, it was like a code name, just some random text, like C088529. That's the video. So you should take that video from my hard drive.
Take the audio.
Extract it, and can you upload it to Google Drive? And she was like, she basically was like, yeah, okay. And so she puts together all the tracks, about 5 tracks they asked for, very weird specifications. It was like they wanted you to play 2 choruses and then comp for 2 choruses behind a saxophonist. I remember one of the songs, it was so unnecessarily like specific. And I was like, do I even have anything
that's actually like that?
Is that. Luckily, I had a recording where I just happened to, it was Humpty Dumpty by Chick Corea.
Yep.
I played and I comped in that recording, so I sent it. And I let it go. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I sent very old recordings, like stuff from when I was like 18 or 17 even. Mm-hmm. And I figured, there's no way, I couldn't even record anything new. And about 2 months later, I get a call that I made the finals.
Okay.
Which, semifinals, essentially, it's a collection of 13 pianists from like all over the world. They had a guy from, I believe, Romania. A lot of them were New York people that I knew. Classmates, like friends of mine from Juilliard, and I went to Manhattan School of Music, so I knew all of the people. I was like, oh, I know this. This is my friend from Korea. Davin Ryu was she's one of my classmates. She went to Juilliard. She had partial Manhattan School, partial Juilliard. And then you had Esteban Castro, amazing artist. One of my favorites, Paul Cornish, another artist. All these different artists from all over the world, and we all came together, and it was honestly just amazing to be in the room with everyone and to share, ideas. And I remember the moment that the competition started, there was a very brief moment where we could rehearse with the house band, which was Carl Allen and Richie Goods. Mm-hmm. And I remember I took a big risk because I brought in everybody had, I brought in a couple swing tunes. I brought in a blues, Aki's Blues, which is, a swing piece of blues. But I also brought in a song by Jerry Allen entitled Drummer's Song. And it's very weird because it's like got very coordination based things. It's not in 4/4. It's like shifts, time signatures. So I kind of wanted to try a range of style of piano. I wanted to cover classical piano. I thought about the competition in a sense. And I thought, well, everybody's going to be killing. Everybody's going to play very great bebop 4/4 swing. But I think the judges are going to want more. They're going to want a range of, they're going to want classical. They're going to want stride. They're going to want bebop, of course. They're going to want some odd meter. They're going to want, a range of piano playing because it's a piano competition. So I figured, in my selections, I tried to cover every era of piano. So I started with like a classical, kind of like classical, and then I kind of went into the blues kind of vibe and bebop. I then played a gospel piece at the very end. So I kind of mixed different stylistic elements, and I just remember, if it's a competition, I guess I have to play, I don't know. I've never been a part of this side. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, what would a competition have, I guess? I'm just trying to do what I think is right for what it requires. And so I would practice. I have a track here. I used to practice to all kinds of odd meter kind of things and kind of challenge myself to play in time to all these different things. And so I used to create backing tracks, make the drums on a keyboard.
Okay.
So I used to play along.
Are we gonna hear something like this?
Yeah, we'll hear it. I'll play you some of. This is something I used to practice with. It's a piece that I wrote called Prelude on Trance, and I used to just kind of like. I used to make all kinds of crazy,
Amazing.
crazy, like, and I would challenge myself all day just playing over random beats of tracks that I would make, stuff in like odd meter, and I just love challenging myself with all kinds of things. And this is just one of the tracks I made. I make a lot of these randomly. Like,
And how do you make these things? What do you use? Logic? What do you use to make them?
so I use a program called Addictive Drums
Okay.
in Logic, and I actually program the drums from my MIDI keyboard. Sometimes I'll be on a flight.
Will you play them up here on the pads or what?
Actually, with the keys itself.
Okay. You get in the right octave.
Yeah. So I would kind of mix and I would do chop with different fingers. So I used to play, random. I would just sometimes put on a metronome. I used to pull up different metronomes, 11, and I would just sit and I would think, okay, what's like a standard? And I would practice.
Jahari, tell what tune was that?
That was All the Things You Are.
Right.
Honestly.
And what is the beat that you're playing over?
So this is 11.
What is this app that you're using here?
This app is called Pro Metronome. So
Okay.
I would experiment with, you can change the meter like instantaneously. It's very free. It's a free app. You can actually set the beats to different accents. So I can change where I want the accent to place. Dun, dun, dun. Or I could change it. And I would sometimes literally pick any song, any standard, any song, and just try to blow over it in 9 or maybe 11 or 13 or just pick another time signature. And this really changed my brain, even when it came to playing in normal contexts.
Kind of reimagine the harmonic rhythm of a song.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
I could play over anything, and I could experiment rhythmically in ways, even in a normal, like 4/4. And I used
That's
to.
as beboppy as I've heard you play there.
Yeah, of course I studied bebop, but I try not to copy. I was really against. I wanted to take elements from everything I loved, everything I heard. Of course I learned. Bebop kind of
Yeah.
phrases. And I would learn tunes, bebop tunes as well, lines. And I learned, I went to Manhattan School of Music for for jazz performance, which
Did you finish your degree there
I finished
too?
my degree, yeah.
Okay.
And actually, I think
What about stuff like stride piano? Was this part of the competition where you had to play stride, or you just had to have that in your audition?
You know, I played a mixture. I didn't have to play. You can play whatever you want in the competition, but you know, I used to play. I would play like, you know, a mixture of things. Like I used to kind of take elements from everything and try to show a range. So yeah, during the competition, I played bits of stride. Just very. It was very short. You could only play for 15 minutes on the finals as well. So it was like they had a specified time limit, and they had, you know, time requirements because there was so many people.
Was it just one long piece that you divided up into different sections, or what did you do?
So the semifinals, it was I think each participant had 3 songs they could play.
Okay.
I actually played 4, kind of. I played the beginning as like a classical piece into the main piece. So I tried to squeeze in as much. It's really, you know, it's like when you're thinking about a competition, it's weird. It's like you have to think about the time. You're on a time limit, and they really judge critically, like if you can't finish in time. So you're in your mind, you're like, okay, how do I improvise and play and go for it and build it up, but still I need to finish like in under 20 minutes. It's like it's a little tricky. So it's like you can't really go forever, you know. You know, I can't just play forever. I have to actually be mindful of the time. And your heart is racing, the adrenaline is high. You're being watched
Is this the first time you had done a competition like that?
This is my second time doing a competition. But this was like on a whole nother level. I mean, you're being watched by Herbie Hancock. You're being watched.
Is this the first time you'd ever met Herbie?
First time, yeah. But you know, in a way, I wasn't afraid to play. It was, I think I already had experience touring. You know, I was touring with Stanley Clarke, which was that was a big experience for me because I was playing in front of thousands of people and just the fear of playing went away. And I just think you start to care less about playing to like impress and just more about serving the music and just trying to play what fits for the music more than anything. And it's not really about impressing or trying to show off or anything really. It's just playing from the heart, you know, like playing what I really feel in that moment. Like even now, I'm just playing like what comes to me right now. Like I don't know what I didn't rehearse. You know? I'm literally just here on the Rick Beato YouTube channel. I haven't even touched a piano in a while, a real piano. But I love that risk, that feeling of like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's scary in a good way.
So you ended up winning the competition.
Unreal.
Were you shocked?
Believe it or not, the day before the finals, like a friend of mine, like a good friend of mine actually passed away. And it was really weird because I won the semifinals. I got to the finals. But I remember I was getting all these congratulation texts. And I was, in my mind, I was shocked. I was like, wow, you know, I guess I'm here now. And, you know, I loved hearing everybody. I remember even in the moment as I was there, I was hearing some other people play before me. I was like, oh, I like what he did. I'm gonna try that too. And I would just, that's how I am, like in general. I listen to everything. I listen to everybody. I love everything. So I used to just, in the moment that I hear something that I like, and this is a habit that I used to do, that I have now. The moment that I hear something, if I like it, I want to learn. I want to think about what is that. But anyways, a friend of mine had passed away, and I remember getting all these congratulation texts. And then all of a sudden, there was this one text just out of the blue, just in the midst of so many messages, it was like they said Trey Davis passed away. He's a great drummer. He was based in Spokane, Washington. I would go there for some master classes and things, and he used to play with me out there. And I remember it was a weird feeling. It was like, oh snap, like that's crazy. I really was shocked. And I remember the next day it was like a little heavy because I was kind of like, man, like this is kind of on my mind. Like I don't even know how to feel right now. And I remember, honestly, when I first walked on stage and played, like my mind just was blank. I don't even remember what I honestly wasn't. I was just in the moment, just playing. I felt like I was just getting used to playing the piano. I wasn't even present. I was blank. I was really blank, and I was just trying to. I remember the first things I was doing. I was just trying to feel the piano, and I was trying to get used to the feeling of it again, to get myself out of that, to start to play the piece. It was so weird. It was a really weird experience, honestly, man. And I remember not much from what I played. I just remember I just got through it, left. And I walked away. And next thing I know, they called me up. And I thought I was third place, honestly. I didn't know that, I thought they called the first place winner first, but they called the third place winner first.
Right.
So the moment they called someone else, I was like, oh great, he won first place. Like I was like, I wasn't even thinking about it. Like I was just like, oh yeah, and they called me last, and the crowd was cheering really hard. And I was like, why are you cheering so hard? I got third place. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Like what? And Herbie was like, congratulations. He shook my hand. I said, thanks, man. Third place is great. And he said, Jahari Stampley won the competition. Herbie announced it. I was like, wait, what is happening? And I just remember I was really surprised, honestly. Like talking to Herbie it felt really, really strange in that moment, especially because my mind was in another place. And just at the same time, I'm filled with excitement, but I'm also filled with like kind of like heaviness. And I'm not really sure what my face looked like. And actually, the picture they took that like, I'm going to show you this picture. It's actually really, you could tell like I look sad. Because I'm standing next to Herbie Hancock. He's smiling, and I'm just like my brain, I'm literally visibly just like, I don't even know what's going on right now. This is the picture. I'll send it to you.
Send it to me.
This was right after he said, Jahari Stampley won first place. I came on stage like, I'm literally, I don't know what is happening right now. It was a weird day. It was very bittersweet. It was like, I'll never forget it in a good way. I also never forget that feeling in a bad way too. But in a way, I think maybe it's a part of that is what came out in the music too. I really don't know, man. It was weird.
So let me ask you something. So you win a big competition like this. What do you do as an improvising musician? I wouldn't even say jazz musician, improvising musician in 2025. This is a question I like to ask people. You and I talked about this last night.
Yeah.
We talked about platforms like this, like YouTube and social media and stuff. And how important are these things, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, for a musician nowadays?
Man, it is a different time period, and in a way, like as a creator today, you have to be aware of social media. You have to be aware of video editing, quality, video quality, content, sound quality. And luckily, my parents, I'm so fortunate. My mother, she's Grammy nominated, and she, has worked with world class artists all over the world. She had access to great equipment, great sound engineering, people like resources that I could learn from. And I feel fortunate because it's not just about talent and playing well. You have to play really well, but you also have to know how to mix, know how to make content, know how to create consistent content and make it at a quality, high level, consistently.
What do you think of that word content?
Oh,
It's kind of a weird word. When you say it, I kind of am like,
yeah.
I cringe when I hear it. What did I tell you about YouTube and stuff like that, Jahari? I gave you you asked me some questions last night. What did I tell you about it?
Well, the biggest lesson is that there are many people that tell you what to do and how to use these platforms. But there are people like yourself that are using these platforms at the highest level. And I think there's a lot of misinformation about how to utilize and how to use.
Put out anything whenever, it doesn't matter what time it is. Doesn't
matter. Yes.
If it's good, people like it. If it's not, they don't. They click on it. There are no secrets to anything.
Yes.
Put out things that are interesting to you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? It's just like play things that are interesting to you.
Yes.
And your taste kind of does the rest. Right? There is no, there's a window of time that you need to put out when all your, whatever viewer. I never followed any.
Wow.
When I finish something, I put it out.
Yeah.
And there's no secrets to any of this stuff.
What I find lately is that people like authenticity, and I think it's one thing to try to go viral by, doing gimmicks and, trying to follow in a way, it's like social media kind of forces you to try to take that approach sometimes. But I do think ultimately, if you just play honestly and just be an honest artist and just be yourself and stick to what you love and not necessarily do it for fame, but just do it for the sake of really honoring like the music and also the people that came before you. And I think for me, it's just obviously I have to utilize social media in this age. It's a new generation, but I'm grateful that I was able to do. I have great people. Having you and even Hiromi, we collaborated, and Herbie, I'm able to talk to Herbie, and I'm trying to set up a collaboration with him as well, and just people recognize real, authentic.
Absolutely.
No matter I think it always shines through more than the fakeness of social media. So I think I just believe in that, and I just stick to that, and I'm not really in a rush to go viral per se, but it's more about honoring the music and staying true to myself. And I think real people will come from that, which is what I appreciate.
Why don't you play something else from your record?
Yeah, man. This is another piece, actually from my first album.
Jahari, fantastic. Thank you so much, man. Such a pleasure to have you here. Sounded amazing.
Man, an honor.